Yeah, right. We're all wearing masks. Look, I'm gonna get rid of that so you can't even see it. It's just in the background. And there's like a really strong chance I'm gonna stand in front of it for half of the class. Because I'm just not thinking about it. Look, it's not even there. Hi, welcome back. Hey, how's everybody doing? People are dropping like flies. You get your field placement and then you get sick. That's how it goes. Not that they left us forever, but they got sick. So welcome to those of you who could make it. I'm expecting 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So hopefully we've got a couple more who are on their way. I count wrong. I did count wrong. 18 total. Okay. Okay, welcome back. I'm really excited. We finally get to dig into our text this week. I hope that you enjoyed reading. I feel so very far away from you all, but I have to stay here. A very quick announcement. I know it's a lot of text. I just copied and pasted Dr. Roland Storm's whole email. If you have him for 501, he probably sent this to you too, but I'm going to share it anyway. So Dr. Roland Storm applied for something called the Teaching for Black Lives Study Group, which is a really cool opportunity coming out of the Zinn Education Project, which is this amazing organization that is basically working to kind of rewrite some of the curriculum that probably most of us learned growing up, which is very white-centric. And they're trying to create a new, mainly social studies history curriculum that focuses on multiple perspectives and includes all of the different stories that are in our rich history here in the US. It's a super cool project. And what we have just been accepted into is their Teaching for Black Lives. So this is the text, Teaching for Black Lives. It's absolutely amazing. I meant to bring my copy to show it to all of you. It's a visually stunning book. It's very high quality, like, you know, the pages in our book are kind of cheap. This book is very like high gloss. The pages are thick. All of them are in color with this beautiful artistic imagery all throughout. And they're running this, he's running this group on campus of people who are interested in learning more about this text and the Zinn Education Project. And if you sign up for it, you get the text for free. You also get a year-long subscription to the magazine Rethinking Schools. That's the publisher of the text. And then you get to join in 6 different meetings throughout the semester. And these are the meeting dates. They are firm. If you can't make any of them, you probably won't be able to join. But if you can make those, and there's 2 options every week, a Monday or a Saturday, I encourage you to join. The idea is that we're going to create participant-generated projects related to teaching for Black lives. It's a really cool opportunity. You know, when you graduate, look around the room, you've got a big class of peers who will be eventually your competition, your colleagues. When you think about the things that will make you stand out in your program, this is one of those things. This is one of those rare opportunities. So if you want in, or if you just want more information, you can click around on the slide and look at all the stuff that's posted. But Dr. Roland Storm needs to know by September 29th. So if you'd like to join, let him know. I have joined, so I will be going to all of these. I'm super excited about it. I can't wait. I have literally 0 time for this, but I'm so excited. I can't wait. Questions?
Is that online? And I thought I read somewhere that it's online and in person.
Yeah, I think he says the sessions, the study group sessions will be held on campus, but you can also attend virtually. Because the idea is we're trying to target our broader NAS community. So we're going to invite alumni, people that we worked with in the schools. Some of them might live far, far away. So yes, everything is either it will be just like this. So you can join in person or you can join over the virtual platform.
If we know there's a week that we wouldn't be able to make both the Monday or the Saturday,
I'm not sure about that. That's a great question for Dr. Roland Storm. Could you ask him, please? Because I'm not sure. He's the one that's facilitating this. I think ideally he wants everyone to come to everyone, but if you're only gonna miss one, I'm not sure. Ask him about that. Other questions? I hope that you will consider it. It's gonna be.
I have a quick question. Is this something we can share with other educators, or is it a NAS exclusive?
They have to be affiliated with Nazareth in
Okay.
some capacity. If they are alumni or if they have taught here, absolutely.
Great.
Yep. Okay, any other questions or announcements? I'm actually not gonna start with this, I'm gonna take it off. But I am gonna pass out the index cards for it. Maybe. I'm going to start. Where do we go? So, I just got this book in the mail and it's so beautiful and I wanted to share it with you. When Amanda Gorman gave her inauguration day poetry delivery, I just fell in love with her. Like, she's amazing. So I ordered her book like immediately and it just arrived yesterday. And it's the most visually stunning children's book I've ever seen. So I wanted to share it with you all. It's called Change Things. So I'm gonna do it really loud. Change things. I can hear change humming in its loudest, proudest song. I don't fear change coming, and so I sing along. I scream with the skies of red and blue streamers. I dream with the cries of tried and true dreamers. I'm a chant that rises and rings. There is hope where my change sings. Though some don't understand it, those windmills of mysteries, I sing with all the planets and its hills of histories. I hum with 100 hearts, each of us lifting a hand. I use my strengths and my smarts to take a knee to make a stand. I'm bright as the light each day brings. There is love where my change sings. I show others tolerance, though it might take some courage. I don't make a taller fence, but fight to build a better bridge. I talk not only of distances from where and how we came, I also walk our differences to show we are the same. I'm a movement that roars and springs. There's a wave where my change sings. Change sings where? There, inside me, because I'm the change I want to see. As I grow, it grows like seeds. I am just what the world needs. I'm the voice where freedom reigns. You're the love your bright heart brings. We are the waves starting to spring, for we are the change we sing. We're what the world is becoming, and we know it won't be long. We all hear change strumming. Won't you sing along? That's so good.
I got it.
I love it. I know. I get chills. So it's just an example of a really beautiful, high quality piece of children's literature. As we move into the next module, the next couple of chapters of our text, we'll start talking about layering text and high quality text. So I thought, I just got it in the mail. I'm going to share it, and I love a good read aloud. Okay, now I want to hear how y'all are doing. So we're going to do a quick check-in. We're going to do a quick flipped classroom check-in. We're gonna do actually one more check-in, a world events check-in. That one's gonna be serious and maybe a little sad. And then we'll talk about cultivating genius, and then we are done. So on your index card, please respond to the following questions. Names are optional, but I am gonna collect these. I just wanna see how everybody's feeling and doing. So number one, how are you feeling about grad school right now? We're in week 4. It's overwhelming. I'm overwhelmed. How are you feeling? Maybe you're feeling okay. Maybe you're feeling like a number 1. I'm kind of like a number 5. Maybe with an upside down, a number 7. So choose all the emojis that you are and tell me. Number 2, what have you found to be the most challenging thing so far? If you're early in the program, it's your first course, what's challenging you? If you're a little later on in your course, what's challenging you? Number 3, what are you the most proud of so far? Because even though it's hard, you probably have had proud moments too. And then number 4, did I already say 4? 3, what are you proud of? 4, what strategies can help you move through the rest of the semester with success? Okay, take a minute to just answer all of those. Is that too dark? Will you fall asleep? Promise to stay awake? How about some fans? It is stuffy. It's gonna blow all your papers around. We'll go level 2. Every time that happens, I never get used to it. I don't know about you all. I never get used to that. Anybody want to share their emoji? How you feeling? What number are you? I'm a 5, like for sure.
I'm 11.
Which one are you?
11.
11. Oh,
Still confused.
confused. I promise it gets better.
Yeah.
Who else? What are you, Jen?
I'm number 7.
You're 7. Yeah. Okay. So you're smiling, but it's upside down.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'm 4.
You're a 4.
Oh.
Oh no. Yikes. Is that because of school or the home renovations or all of it?
Everything.
Just all of it
All
is
at the
making
same
your,
time, just like
yep, explosion. I got it. We got a couple 9s. They're not here, but they're, we got some of those.
11.
7, 11, 13. Oh, you're,
Yeah.
who's tired? I'm tired too. This 7 to 9:40 class, man, ooh, my bedtime is like 9 o'clock. Who else? Is anybody a 14? No one's a 14? No one's crying?
Not
I was a 14.
Not yet. You're not anymore
I'm
though.
not anymore,
Good.
but I was a 14 for a minute.
I'm stuck between being confused, mad, and like waiting to want to cry.
Waiting to want to be a 14.
Yeah, I'm saving my crying for,
Midterm,
perfect
yeah.
moment.
Got it. So what's been the hardest part about grad school for you all? What's been the biggest challenge?
All the reading.
Yeah, reading.
Time management.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna be also time management.
time management, keeping up on the reading.
Having each book size,
Remember like which readings were for which class?
Oh,
Because they're
yeah.
overlapping.
How many of you are confusing all of your courses? Yeah, especially if you're in 501 and 2, they're so similar, right?
So similar.
You're not alone. I mix up my classes that I'm teaching. What were you gonna say, Jackie?
just learning each professor's way of doing things, I guess.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
like, I just feel like when I start to understand it, then something shifts. Or there's this other thing you gotta do, or.
Yeah, it is kind of like starting to date, right? You have to like learn the person's personality, what they like, what they don't like. It's true. It's true. What has been your proudest thing so far? What are you feeling proud of right now?
I am the assignments on time.
Yay! How many of you are proud that you just got your work done? Yes, I am proud that I have graded everything. What else are you proud of?
Well, month in.
We are, this is week 4, friends.
Yeah.
You survived almost a month of grad
We
school.
technically only have like what?
I know, it's week 4. We are 1/4 of the way done because there are 16 weeks in the semester. We made it.
3 months left of our master's.
Oh,
If you think of it that way.
Yes.
It'd be 3 months.
You can do that. You can do that. You can
Pretty
do
soon
that.
it's gonna be like 12 months, and we're all gonna be like, oh my God.
It's almost over and then you'll be sad. When it ends, you will be sad.
Then we'll
Like,
be
this
going back
is the
to
best
college
time of
and
your
going
life,
back
I
to school.
promise.
Actually, when done, then we can understand what we lost.
Yeah.
I'll be your clerk.
Anything else you're proud of?
Are you doing the?
Maureen, what are you proud of?
Just the fact that I'm willing to share how I definitely did not talk much in undergrad.
All right, who's feeling like in grad school you found people that you feel comfortable sharing with and talking in class and engaging more? Yeah, that's a big deal in grad school. All right, what strategies are going to get us through the rest of the semester? What can we do? How about that time management? What are we going to do about that? Because that showed up in the first week of this class too, and it's still there. Planner, you got a planner. Hopefully you're entering your assignments.
I'm gonna pay Dorothy to like lay out my agenda.
Yep. Get Dorothy to help us. What else? Maureen.
I started color coding things again.
Yeah, color coding is a great idea. That can help with that problem of what class is this for? When do I do this? What else? Who's having difficulty balancing work life? And by work, I mean schoolwork, and your life, I mean like everything else. That is a chronic problem for me. That's why I vow to not work on the weekends, because I have to have that balance. Otherwise, it takes over. How can we work on that? What are some strategies?
I wish I could just quit my job.
Oh. Okay.
That would kind of, I'm like literally trying to plan out how to get rid of all my expenses and how to like, I'm contemplating taking out a loan just to pay off my car. Like honestly, just to say, hey, like I already have a loan out, but like deferring it just so I don't have to pay it. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
how many of you are stressing about the financial burden of grad school? Yeah, right there with you. I have hundreds with an S at the end of thousands of dollars of college loan debt. I will be paying off college forever. I also did a PhD though, so hopefully you never make it to that level unless you want your doctorate. Does anyone in this room want a PhD? We will have to. We will talk, I will talk you out of it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
How does that not stress you out though?
I just don't. I'm in public service loan forgiveness. I know that it will be fine, and it's like good debt, and I just write that. I don't write a check. Who writes checks? I pay that. It's auto pay. I don't even pay it. It's just auto out of my account. I don't worry about it. I made an investment in my knowledge and my intellect, and I'm okay with
All
that.
having children and passing on your debt to them.
Yeah. No, your ed debt dies with you. Your ed debt dies with you. It's the only debt.
Oh, thank God.
Unless someone co-signed it.
Yes. Let's go.
Well,
Sounds like somebody gave you the talk.
Yeah. Somebody gave Maureen the talk.
I don't know.
One other thing I want you to do, I love hearing, I want to keep checking in with you emotionally because I know that this is hard, this is demanding, and it's important that you're managing it okay. One other thing, I want you to flip your card over. So in modules 3 and 4, this was the list of things that you had to do. Watch that video of Goldie Muhammad. Isn't she the best? I just love her. She's so great. Read chapters 3 and 4 of our text. Do your reflection number 2. Do your reflection number 3 on chapters 5 and 6. I asked you to look at the Hill Pedagogy's website. I said in the video that we were going to work on it in class. I actually moved it, so we're going to revisit it when we get a little further into our lesson planning stuff. So hold that thought. And then there was an APA style quiz, and the last I checked, I think 14 out of the 16 of you had taken it, and there were still a couple of people working. So my question is, think about all these activities. How did you do with that? How can I better support you in your flipped learning? Or you can just answer, how's it going? And how are you liking it? Give me some feedback on the flipped learning experience for you. And this can be anonymous, so you can be very truthful unless you put your name on it, then it's not.
And NAS has been doing flipped learning since last fall with COVID as well.
I don't think any of my colleagues are doing flipped learning. I think I'm the only one.
I've never done this before.
It's just a hybrid thing.
Hybrid is different. So
Yeah.
hybrid is the alternating every other week. I want to know about the flipped classroom where I put all the lectures in the we haven't really gotten that far into it, I guess.
I
No,
had
wait-
made that
wait till next
distinction,
week when
but it
there's all the
makes sense
videos.
now.
Yeah, did you think ahead?
I did.
Next week is all the videos.
I
Yeah.
like to see what's coming out.
Yeah. So next week we really start the flipped learning. So, okay, why don't you tell me about the hybrid program? Because I'm also playing with the idea of making the bigger program a little more hybrid. So tell me about the flipped learning. Tell me about the hybrid nature where we meet every other week. And you're right, we are moving in that direction as a school of education to that every other week model, having you all on campus 1 or 2 days a week. Yeah, that's a great point.
Dr. Smith, for speaking of the next module, well, I don't know, you kind of was speaking of that. There's no reflection questions for chapter 8 in the book.
Are there not?
Kind of ends no, it's chapter 8 is different, I feel like.
Oh, you're totally right. Why don't we do just a general reflection of the text?
Okay.
Like an overall, just reflect openly. I'll go in and change that. Thank you for that update.
Okay.
You know, I read the text. I'm not that far. I'm reading along as we go. I read it over last summer, so I completely forgot that chapter 8 is a little different. Good call. I'll fix that in the middle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the way down.
Oh yes, I should have mentioned that. The slide deck for tonight is the same slide deck as the first week of class, which is in our Moodle homepage at the top. You just have to scroll way down. I use the same slides all semester. So you don't have to hunt and find the,
Yeah, I was trying to look for you.
yeah, no hunting, go to the same slide deck. So by the time we're done, it will be very, very long, but you'll go to the same place every time. Sorry, I was eavesdropping.
Yeah, it's fine, I was just throwing a lot of questions for you.
Yeah. Maureen, I need you for like constant tech support.
Oh.
No? Anybody want to share about flipped learning or the hybrid format? How's that feeling for you? How's that working?
Kind of liking it, just because it's giving me the time to like work at things at my own pace. Like if I don't get to something like right away, it's not like it's the end of the world. And, like I can kind of do a couple things for, you know, I put it here if I have time and then don't come back to it later, or
Great.
my brain is just really shut off. I just stop.
Yeah. You can kind of do your class at like whenever you want to. And you'll see that more as we move into like module 6. And also I can say what's exciting is after next week, module 5, we will be all done with the reflections, the cultivating genius reflections, done for the whole class. Done. No more reflections for the text. And then you don't have assignments due every single week in the class. So then it really will feel like do it on your own time, which I think will be a nice switch. Thanks for that feedback, Matt. Anyone else?
I actually like better than the hybrid one, because whenever I had a Zoom class, I don't know if other people, but for me, I kind of don't get anything from Zoom.
Meaning like when you're meeting synchronously in
Yeah.
Zoom as a class? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
How many of you had a class like that last year or have ever? Yeah. So you didn't prefer that?
I'm actually having right now, and every time that I join, I get feel like I'm kind of lost. I mean,
Yeah.
I get kind of, I don't know, I just feel like don't get anything, not anything, but like, I don't get as much information as with the course or the new version. Like
Yeah.
I have a hard time, even though like I lock myself in the ops and just stay there, I just don't get in.
It
as
is
much.
harder. It's also harder to teach a Zoom class
Mhm.
session. It's really just.
It's not just for me, like the sound is not great because I cannot connect my earphone over here, and then my laptop gets the sound weird, and I'm just like,
Yeah, totally
So-
agree. I saw lots of people nodding along with you, so you're not alone there. Good, so you prefer flipped to the hybrid synchronous Zoom meetings?
Yeah, because it connects to my
Yep.
iPhone and just put in the earphone, and I can actually listen to you better than with my laptop.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. How many of you do that? Do you listen to the stuff on your mobile device? I know maybe when we get into module 6, we can talk about that a little bit more, but that's another good idea. Other thoughts on the flipped or the hybrid or the?
For me, it just takes me like a little while to organize, like what work do I actually have to do for the next 2 weeks? But I kind of like having a list because I have to kind of jump into it whenever I have time. So
Yeah.
once I get that all set up, I get it done, it works out well.
So let me show you a little tip that has not been really important to this point in this class, but it is going to be as we move into more of the lesson planning content. So at the end of, oh, forgive me, well, you have to watch me log into another thing. So at the end of our really busy content heavy modules, I haven't been doing it for the cultivating genius ones because it's like, they're exactly the same, like read the book, write a response, read the book, write a response. When we get to this backward design module, there's a lot. This is a heavy, bulky, there's nothing to really read. There's one article to read that you'll check out early at the start of the module, but sorry, I should have gone, is it this one? Yes, this one. There's one article to read down here in backward design. It's brief, it's about 7 pages long, so it's not too long, but there's a lot of videos. There's a lot of lectures and micro lectures, but at the very end of the module, what I'm going to do from now on, from module 6 for the rest of the course, I'm going to put a little checklist of things that you needed to do. This is like the must have done part of the module. So what I recommend you do is take that list, copy it, paste it wherever you put things that you're keeping track of what you need to do, write it into your planner. that list that appears at the end of the modules from 6 to the end of the class will be that like checklist of what you need to do. So if it makes sense for you, maybe you can start at the end and then backtrack. It's just, I pulled out all those important things you need to do and I'm putting it as like a little marker at the end.
So you
Other,
start from the end and then go from there?
just to see the checklist, like here's what I need to do in this module.
Mhm.
But you should still work through all
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
chapters.
just like one of these, so you kind of.
Yeah, you get like a sneak peek at what's coming.
Okay.
I guess I could put it at the start.
So that's all due by class time each week, or the weeks that we have class.
Yep, so what I just had up on the screen, that will be the week 6 stuff that you'll have 2 weeks from today.
Oh,
Next
that's
week, we're
4 weeks.
finishing the text. 2 weeks from now, you'll have that module, which was our first lesson planning module. And that will be the heaviest module in the whole class, week 6. So save yourself a little bit of time. Week 5 is super easy. Finish the book, write a couple reflections. Week 6 will be the heaviest one in our whole class. So save yourself some time. I think there is 2 hours and 10 minutes of videos in that module. And maybe half an hour of reading. So it's about 3 minutes of time in the Moodle content. There's no reflections. There's a draft of an assignment due, but that should only take you a little while. It's just a draft.
Is there any way to download those to my phone so I can just listen to them while I'm not?
Oh,
Well, no, without the internet. Just,
Oh,
I don't know because
I
I
would be out in the
use
middle of nowhere.
Loom for those, so I don't think so. If that's something that you want to do, Matt, I can try to record in like
No, it's okay.
YouTube or something.
It's just that when that's due is the weekend I'm not home all weekend because I'll be running a marathon.
Oh, okay. Oh my
Because I'm
goodness.
stupid.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing to do.
So it's like,
So what can you do right now, sitting in this class, knowing that 2 weeks from now is the busiest week of the semester? What are you gonna do?
I'm going to be doing that like as soon as I can.
There you go. You're
I have
working
an idea
ahead.
for you.
You're working ahead.
you can actually screen record it to your phone, and then you kind of have on your like folder, and then you can just.
There you go.
5+.
And then you can keep it forever.
Yeah, that's really what I want.
That sounds awesome. Honestly, if there's a way that I can do that for you, I'll look into it, but I'm not sure.
It's okay. I probably would forget half of it because I'll be like,
Yeah,
I just wanna die.
you'll be running. You should listen. And it's the kind of thing, those videos in that module, I'm sending you out to different places and I'm telling you, look at this, pay attention to this, make a copy of this Google Doc, put this in your folder. So it is kind of you gotta stay engaged. So I anticipate module 6 will take you about 8-ish hours of work time. So maybe in this class, you haven't been spending that much time reading the book and writing. Maybe you have, I don't know. Maybe the reflections and the readings have taken you that long. But I'm anticipating 8. If you are a slower processor, you need to watch things twice, or you need to hear things multiple times. You're gonna start. You're looking at more like 10. There's about 2.5 hours of videos. There's about a half an hour of reading. And then you're going to go out and explore standards, epic books. There's a whole bunch of different resources. So block off about 10 hours for module 6.
So that's the week of the starting of the 7th, correct?
It's the 8th through the 14th. Right? Right? Is that 2 weeks from today? The 14th is 2 weeks from today, right? Or no? Well, it says 7th. No,
The 7th. Yeah,
it's the week of the 1st to the 7th. The 2nd to the 7th.
Second to the 7th.
2nd to the 7th. The next time that we come in for this class, the week that you will have just ended will be the busy one. Other thoughts, questions? I made everybody panic. Don't panic. It's not as terrible as I made it sound. It's watching a lot of videos. It's the most you're gonna hear my voice all semester, and then I promise you won't.
Maybe if these videos were on Netflix, you'd feel more like
Yes. Would you like better production quality?
I am having some Netflix withdrawals. like-
Shall I wear some costumes or like do my makeup?
Be creative.
Okay, I'll be a little more creative. You do get to see my cat in one of them, so that will be fun. That's fun for everybody. Take those index cards and pass them down this way. I'll take them. I'd love to see how y'all are feeling, doing. And while you're doing that, I would like you to take a look at the screen and just look. Just look at the images. We're gonna do, so we did a grad school check-in. We did a flipped learning check-in. Now I want to do a world events check-in, a very specific world event. This is happening right now. What do you notice?
You're hitting them with a whip.
There's like some sort of a whip action happening.
Migrants at the US border.
Who's speaking? It's like a detached voice. Oh, I couldn't tell your mouth. I couldn't tell it was moving. Yes, it's the Haitian refugees at the border. What else do you notice?
Children.
Children.
Trying to carry all their belongings.
You can also see how family and friends are important to them because they're all together.
Yeah,
Even though they're through tough time, they're like there for each other. So
it seems that there are families that are still able to be together. So when you see images like this, I think this is a nice connection to our Cultivating Genius text. When you see images like this of a group of people, you start to form judgments or biases even about this group of people. So perhaps you're thinking Haitians are down on their luck, their country is defunct and it's unsafe and they have to run away and they're poor. How does this slide differ from the last slide?
Using more of like a news, like presenting something as something good, something positive.
Yeah. Do you know these people?
Good, yes.
Yeah, good. We think good.
Yes.
right?
Good.
When we saw the last slide, we definitely had like negative connotations, right? How is this slide similar to the last slide?
All black. Oh, yeah,
They're all people of color, they're all black.
yeah.
Can you go one step further?
I know Marcel is Haitian.
They're all Haitian. They are all of Haitian descent. The reason I wanted to do this is, first of all, to show you a really effective exercise that you can use with children. Putting images on the screen and simply asking, what do you notice? You can get so much information from your students and know what they're thinking, and they can really connect emotionally and deeply with images like that. Secondly, Goldie tells us that we need to work really hard to make sure that the story that we get, that we receive, that we understand about people is not a single story. I wish Angelica was here because she wrote in her journal for this week, or for one of the weeks, about the TED Talk called The Danger of a Single Narrative. Have y'all seen that? It's amazing. I can share the link if you're interested. But the idea is basically that when we have a single narrative of an entire group of people, if I walked in here and said, hey, what do you think about people from Haiti today? What would you have all said? You would have said, oh, Haitians, I feel so bad for them. Their country is a wreck right now. They've got political uproar, they've got earthquakes and disasters, and they're all just down on their luck. When in reality, they're not all like that. So this is a reminder that when you're teaching history, and this is of course a current event, so it's not necessarily a historical event, but when you're teaching topics to your students where you're looking at groups of people, make sure that you balance the story out so that you're not just giving them Black people's history is all about slavery, right? It's been horrible, it's been awful. There's also amazing things in Black history, like all the amazing inventors, all the amazing, so many wonderful stories that you can find out there. And she talks about that here in this text that you read for this week. So this is just an example that came to mind when I saw those images of the people at the border. It just breaks my heart. And yes, that is the appropriate reaction. You should feel, it's heart-wrenching. You should feel for them, but also remember that not everyone from Haiti is a refugee or is in that same situation. Thoughts? Feelings? Share your feelings.
I have to say something. I'm so sorry. I know I'm always talking.
No, you're fine.
I did go to Haiti, and the thing that stuck out to me the most is that a lot of the kids that were like between the ages of like 8 to 10 who could really like articulate, you know, what they're learning in school, what they want to do.
Yep.
And regardless of like their poverty situation or their health situations, a lot of them actually have this goal to come to the States
Yeah.
and teach us about God, about family, about culture, because their perception of us is that we lack community. So,
And that was one of the things,
I'm sorry.
that was one of the things that was pointed out, that they seem to have a strong family connection. They have that connection to each other. Yeah, it's interesting. That's a whole different perspective, right?
And to think that they, you know, we thought we were there helping them, like
Yeah.
they can't wait to come help us and teach
Yeah.
us how to live.
It's a good reminder.
I'm the only thing I noticed was like, so when we were like, oh wow, yeah, like look at all these patients are so successful.
Here.
It's totally normal, but also frustrating that like success is so equated with money, because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, but I want this type of success as well. So I'm not even looking down on it. But
And that's probably
just
my fault.
bias. That could also be my bias. Like these are also brilliant minds, right? And they're creative geniuses. So I guess I'm the one that's saying money when I look at that. So,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
it's also my fault. I Googled famous Haitians and found the ones that popped up.
But it's also impossible to know of another, you know, we can't have a public profile unless you publicly been
Well,
successful in something.
I will
so-
share with you, Amy,
I don't know.
this resource, honestly, it's the Wikipedia page. It's called the List of Haitians. If you are looking for those like more obscure successful people, there's academics, there's business people, there's organized crime. Don't look at that one. Entertainment, historical, like look at all the influential people from Haiti that, look at all the literature, the authors. We don't even know these people's names. And I just picked the ones that were identifiable because I was hoping like someone in the room would be like, well, I know Jason Derulo's parents were from Haiti.
Well, and it makes an impact too, because we all know those figures. Those are public
Yeah.
figures, right?
Yeah.
If you put up a bunch of academics, we'd be like,
You
know, like, there wouldn't be the same full.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're right though. There's something there about what we equate with success.
But can you give like just a perspective as well? Because for me, success can be like you achieve something. So for example, if I get my things done on time, I actually achieve success as well, at least for myself. So now for me, at least, it'll be just like be famous. You know, like you actually have a goal and you achieve it. That's like for me, it's gonna be a success.
Yeah, for sure.
So it can be perspective as well.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's all your perspective. Other thoughts? Yeah, John.
I heard a news story earlier today that they were interviewing somebody from the government. It was kind of driving between places, so I didn't pay too much attention, the State Department or something. And they were interviewing them about what happened. And they said that they, taking away the horse patrols while that gets investigated. But they had somebody talk about what happened when, what's in that picture. And then the person from the state department said something like, well, I can guarantee that didn't happen. There was no whipping, there was no that, but, I mean, and then to come into class, that was like
I
2 hours
did-
ago, and then to see the picture,
I
like, how
know.
can we see that?
I did hear a statement from one of the patrolmen who said that they're not in fact whips. They are the reins for their horses.
Yeah.
Someone in here is an equestrian.
So maybe that's why.
Can you confirm who is that? Shaylee, right?
Yeah, they do look like brains. They're split brains, so they're like not connected. That's why they look like a whip.
So they have the ability to kind of whip it around, but it's not a whip.
For the-
But
So maybe
look at
that's
how
how
it's
they would
being
justify it.
used. I feel like that's a total power move, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. It breaks my heart, the image on the top left. Like clearly they've just come from some sort of food bank or food source, or someone has given them food that's wrapped in the blue bag in the containers, and they're being, like, I actually can't talk about it. It makes me really emotional. But
What are those with the internet too? Like I've seen that image, I've seen multiple like,
that one,
like angles or whatever, and it seems like somebody's editing them also, so it's so hard to know like which ones are real.
yeah, my sources are at the bottom of all my slides. These are New York Times and Washington Post, which I consider them to be reputable sources.
Yeah.
But you're right, I've seen slightly different versions of all of them. Yeah.
Chris, what would they be reaching at that? Like, you're not gonna pull them up onto your horse. Like, I can't contextualize that picture. I have an emotional reaction to the story it tells, but it's like, what actually would be coming after that? Like, is
If
it-
you go to the website that I linked, there is a video provided where you can see this man, this ranger, like riding around on his horse. And basically he's trying to force everyone back into the water, which is like the crossing line. So he's trying to just force them so they can't come onto the land. So if I had to guess, Amy, I would say he's like grabbing them to corral them back into the water.
Okay.
But I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I heard there was like 10 of them or whatever. They were all on the horses together trying to.
Yeah, it's just not even a smart plan for, like, if it was like, okay, look, that needs to be done. That's just poor execution of even doing what you're doing. That's just embarrassing. either
Just
way.
embarrassing.
Yeah, it's just
And horrifying.
the best
And
we could come up
I
with.
mean, I just look at all the people who are coming here for a safe haven. And we have to accept refugees, and the fact that we don't have a process for intaking these thousands of people. They're literally living under a bridge outside in these makeshift camps because we don't have a way to process all of them. Like, there is something broken in that system, and I feel for these people so much. It's really heartbreaking. But again, it's one side of an entire culture of people that we're seeing right now. Something that Jackie said also reminded me, you've probably heard another leading the news cycle right now, the story of the girlfriend and boyfriend or fiance who went, yeah, you're all like, ah. Have you seen the people coming out to say, like, there are hundreds of missing women in the state from the indigenous population that no one has cared about ever, but because she's white, you know, we are, how does that rake on your nerves? We pay so much more attention to her story.
Wouldn't you like to be in a newsroom when they're like, okay, let's run this, like, what, I mean, those people must know really well
What's
how
gonna
that
make,
plays into a news cycle, or I wonder if it's seasonal, like, oh, in the fall, I don't even know, but it
Yeah.
just feels like, how did that one make it through versus,
Yeah.
and then now we see all the other stories that should be being run, or people coming forward and say, keep looking for my child. But
sadly, I think our media is driven by the clicks and the links that they get and, the dollars that they make. Gabby and then Maureen.
Yeah, one thing was, I lightly say this is odd. My dad called me, I think, when this first started.
Yeah.
And he joked before knowing how serious it was and said, my boyfriend's name is Brian and I'm Gabby, obviously. So
Oh my
like,
gosh.
it was really weird, and she's like 22 years old, so it's just
Yeah.
like, wow, hello. But another thing, like,
She kind of looks like you do.
yeah, no, right, and I was just like, whoa, like, yeah. What I found really intriguing about that, and like every case has, there are certain things that they look into and the evidence and everything, but like Brian was actually on camera reading books that depicted how to get rid of somebody and like all these like mental things that like not related, but like I liked how people said that he wanted to be one of the characters, like he wanted to be somebody out of a book, and like how they put that to his, yeah, it's just weird, it's thrilling, it got my mind to thinking, it was just, you know.
Somebody will make a movie out of it, right?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yes. Maureen, what were you gonna say?
I, like, one of my big hobbies is like true crime podcasts and YouTubers and stories. So it's been infuriating. I mean, she deserves justice. I'm not saying that by any means, but I was watching or listening to a case the other day about someone whose family didn't even know she was missing for 4 years because she got so little attention.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
heartbreaking to see that one person, just because she was an active social media,
Influencer.
yeah, that everyone in the world and every news station will talk about her, but there are people who if someone were to say their names, no one would have any idea what they're talking about. But if
Not
anyone
even
says
that,
Gabby
but
Petito,
older.
everyone's gonna know, oh, that's
like,
crazy.
do you believe that even if she wasn't a social media influencer, like I still believe that if she wasn't, that girl that you're talking about,
Focused on her.
yeah, because they put so much effort into Gabby that like people took advantage as like, hey, like my daughter's been missing for 4 years. Oh, let's just pronounce that we found her body somewhere. Like there's still not textual or like factual evidence that like that girl is dead. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they just pronounced it because everybody was throwing shame on how much Gabby got. Like in less than a week she was found. You know, like I don't feel like that happens often. I feel like it takes so much longer.
Well, that and just people knew her face.
Yeah.
Right,
Because she
They
had
had
thousands.
the force of the nation
Um,
looking for
It
her.
wasn't
Yeah, I
hard
know,
to,
right.
it wasn't
Yeah.
hard to get thousands of people's attention as
Yeah.
soon as she went missing because they already knew who she was.
Right.
Versus
that's
people who just have like their small friend group and they went missing after a night out and no one ever found them or heard of them because they just don't have the reach. They don't have the people who would even know her face if they
Our
saw it.
social media.
Yeah.
What were you gonna add?
I was just gonna say, I feel like it happens, like when something like this happens, where like someone goes missing or they're found, and then everyone says like, there's so many missing like indigenous people and all that stuff. And people say it and they talk about it for like a week, maybe after, and then it like dies down again.
Even that
The
becomes a
same
news
thing
cycle.
happens, And then
Yeah.
it's like, there's all these, but no one like continuously keeps it like open conversation and like
True.
tries to actually look for these people. It's just something that people like
Yeah,
put on their
it's
stories, and then like if it happens again, same thing on your story again. and
it's
like,
actually a really good
yeah.
point. Like that becomes a news cycle in itself. That you're like, oh yeah, don't forget about these people, and then we forget about these people.
Yeah, like we're
Yeah.
engaging for a second and then all of a sudden
Yep.
it just stops.
Back to life as normal.
Yeah,
right?
right.
And then like,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're okay.
Keep going. It's also because there's so many people on social media talking about it, it gives the law enforcement the push to find them. Whereas if it's just some 21-year-old that's missing, they're like, oh, they're an adult. They have the right to leave and they're not going to investigate it without someone forcing them to. But like, like Sarah Turney with an Alyssa Turney, there's this girl whose little sister or older sister went missing a long time ago and she ended up reaching out to TikTok and that got really huge because she got really popular and then they ended up finding the killer right after she blew up just because it then pushed law enforcement to
Because
say,
it
oh,
came-
so many
became-
people are watching this now, we have to solve it, otherwise we
I think
look
they
bad.
want to stop the assumptions before it gets too out of hand, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
They get a lot
Give
of
them
calls saying,
facts.
what are you gonna do about it?
Is there a function where if a news outlet breaks a story, like we wrote this story, and somebody buys the rights to that story, so it's like literally you just hire people to go keep working these stories. When you suddenly attain a profile that's got enough content that the public will be into, this will be a great story. Somebody's going to want to buy it and make a movie out of it. Like, is that an actual?
Who was in journalism before this? One of y'all.
Because that would just be like.
Somebody. somebody was, maybe it's one of the three that are not
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yes.
Dang it.
Yeah, just have
Who's
a
in
call for me.
journalism?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I can see how you would dig up, like, okay, there's some cam footage and there's this and that, and it's once you've got all your components to like,
Yeah.
this will break in a way where the nation loves it, it can be a movie, it can be a book, it can be a whole thing.
Yeah.
And we
Gosh,
make money
that's
off of it.
distorted.
It's very disturbing.
Disturbing.
And-
Sorry.
Specifically with Gabby, like when a lot of her stories were referring to her as America's daughter too, so it just kind of touched at a lot of heartstrings.
Yeah, you can tell what they're going through.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's move on. Let's move on from this. I wanted to talk about your cultivating genius reflections for just a second. They were so good. They've been so very good. I've been so pleased, so impressed. Most of you have had them done on time or in advance. A couple of you needed minor mini extensions. That's a-okay. They've been really good. Some tips. Please use the same Google Doc every week. I mentioned that to a couple of people. Just make sure you're adding to the same doc. Watch that APA style. I made y'all take a quiz. Most of you did it. Thanks. If you didn't, make sure you take that quiz for me. I'll send you a reminder if you didn't. A writing tip, please avoid using what I call the grand we, or sometimes I call it the ambiguous we. What I mean by this is a lot of you like to write the statement, as teachers, we, or when teaching, we have to. Try to avoid that, making a grand statement like that. It's not really great academic writing. Instead, use a more active voice like this, talking about what you will do. In my future classroom, I will. So try to avoid like talking for the whole profession. For a few different reasons, but mostly because it doesn't sound super academic, and you always want to be having the most academic tone to your writing. So instead, just when I'm teaching, I will, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I didn't make comments about that in anyone's paper. It happens so much that I thought I would just announce that here. Be sure to make a connection to the Cultivating Genius text every time you're responding. So some of you are picking that, that prompt. You're going to pick that prompt in chapter 5, I think. What are you reading right now? The question is not just a general, like, what are you reading? Connect it to the text in some way. Please make sure all of your responses have something to do that. One, who are you? Make sure you connect back to the text. And don't forget to provide the citation. The citations look so much better in the second round. A lot of you that got a 4 on the first one bumped up to a 5 on the second one because your citations were perfect. Thanks. And finally, go a little bit deeper with your critical reflections. I didn't take points off for this, but I want to see you doing that in the last step, particularly that last reflection that Dorothy reminded us is going to be an open reflection. Go deep with your criticality here. Talk about what you read in this book, how it's changing your thinking, what you're going to do differently as a result of having read this text. That's what I want to see in your last step. Otherwise, they've been so good. Not otherwise, they have been so good. I'm really pleased. A lot of you are coming in with a really solid foundation, a nice academic tone, a good style of writing to the graduate level. I've been really pleased. So keep up that good work. Did you have a question?
I actually do. You know what I do. So I can tell, like, on my citation, at first I was like a little more confused. I took the
quiz.
Took my while to get 100, even though going
That's
through
okay.
everything. But I was citing before, as you have over there, the quiz was telling me to put the 2020 whenever I use her name from.
Yep, you can do that too. Yep.
Should I put twice? Like,
You don't need to do it twice.
So if I don't put the 2020 right now when I have it before, it's acceptable.
It's acceptable.
Okay.
I won't mark off for that. So I don't know if y'all
No, I
heard.
just got confused.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard Raphael. So he's talking about, like, if you're, I always have to check that it's actually dry erase because I'm so afraid I'm not even gonna pick up a Sharpie. So if you're writing and you're like, Muhammad, I have terrible handwriting, and then you do 2020 stated that, and then you quote, and then at the end of the quote, you do the page number only. So that's how you write it if you're doing an introduction to her in your sentence. Now, if you simply wrote, I can't think of a good lead into this. So if you simply quote her, and then you don't mention her name, it goes at the end. So if you were to simply quote her, that is not capital. It goes there. So if you're going to introduce her and you only need each of the parts one time. So there's 3 parts to an in-text citation. If you're quoting, name, pub date, page number. And you only need each of those things one time per sentence. Okay? So if you put it up here, then you only put the page number. If you just quote, then you need the whole thing. If you're not quoting, then you don't need the page number. Cool.
So if you're paraphrasing.
If you're paraphrasing,
you don't
it would
need the
be
page.
like this, no quotes, and just that. And if you want to add the page number when you paraphrase, I always do. I think that that's just good practice, but you don't have to.
I'm jumping back really quick. I missed what you said about the reflection on chapter 8. We're just doing
Open.
general,
Yep.
like,
Just an open reflection on the whole book. How have you changed?
Oh,
I'll put it in the
okay.
module for this
Okay.
next week. So you don't have to remember. How has your thinking changed? What have you learned from this book? Something to that effect.
So if we did some of these things in this week's reflections, we have to go back and change them.
No, you don't have to. If you, especially if you have the as teachers, we blah, 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 don't worry about it. But moving forward in this class, like your last reflections, I will be looking for. You don't have to worry about the ones that you just submitted for today. That's okay. Any other questions or comments?
I'm very sorry. You ended this, which is helpful, by saying you don't need a page number if.
You are just paraphrasing. So this is the para
Gotcha.
phrase. No quotations.
But you
Then
do
you just-
need to reference it.
If you paraphrase something, so you might say like, in Cultivating Genius, Goldie Muhammad talks about the HRL framework. No quotation there, but I'm stealing that idea from her, so I'm gonna cite it. Okay, thoroughly. Any other questions about APA? It's a work in progress. I don't expect perfection in your first class in the graduate program or the first one that's focused heavily on citing an APA. We will work on it all semester. At most, I will take a point off here and there if you're still working on things that we've talked about and now you've had a quiz on. But if it's, a new way of citing or a reference page that we haven't really talked about, don't worry, you're not going to fail the class because they can't do APA properly. And also, if you don't have the APA manual, it's a really good text to purchase. You should not be trying to do APA from your memory. Okay. Any last minute questions before we go into our discussion? I'm very excited for this. We do have to do some redecorating, some reorganizing of the classroom. The community agreements are the same as the last time. We get these from bell hooks. Show up, be present, pay attention to the heart and the meaning, tell the truth, tell your truth, and be open to the outcomes. So today we're going to do a protocol that's called the wagon wheels, and we're going to have to modify it a little bit because we don't have exactly 16 people present today, and that is a-okay. There were 4 people who really stood out to me in their discussion, their responses for the last couple of chapters, and they are Amy, Felicia, Dorothy, and Sarah. Lots of other people, I can only pick 4. Lots of other people did really awesome jobs too. But these 4, I reached out and asked if they would be discussion leaders for today for different chapters, and they agreed. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing. So how it's going to work is Amy's going to focus on chapter 3, and I asked Amy to find a passage from chapter 3 that she really liked, that sort of stood out to her, something that she would like to share with her group. So she's got that selected. Same thing for Felicia with chapter 4. Same thing with Dorothy in chapter 5, and same thing with Sarah in chapter 6. So they've all come with selected passages that they're going to share with you all. The wagon wheel protocol works like this. We're going to try to do, I think, 4 corners of the room just to make it easier. And we'll take chairs and move them into the corners. So every corner needs to have 3 chairs for listeners and 1 chair for the discussion leader. And so you'll all go to your corner, and no more than 3 people per corner, probably 2 or 3 based on our numbers. And those discussion leaders will share with you the passage that they selected to bring today. You'll listen, and then you'll respond, and you'll have a little discussion about it. And I asked the facilitators to just kind of, you don't have to take detailed notes. There's no sticky paper for you today, but just keep track of what is discussed. And if anyone else feels like you have a passage that you want to share, or something that you connected to, or an experience you want to share, I'm going to ask the facilitators to keep track of those as well, so that by the time we're done, we've got a set of discussion items that have been bounced off of all of you in the class. So you'll get 10 minutes with each of our 4 facilitators. And then in wagon wheels, you're supposed to put people like the 4 discussion people are in the middle and everyone else is around them. But we're in a pandemic, so we're going to spread. We're going to put you in the corners. So kind of like we did last week, you'll move to a different facilitator for each, and we'll have the people move into the facilitator. So that's how it's going to work. I feel like maybe we need a break before we do this so that we can set up the room. You can use the facilities if you need to. I'm going to grab some water. And then when the break ends in, let's say, 10 minutes, find yourself in one of the corners of the room in an available seat with one of your facilitators. Cool? All right, let's be back here by no later than 8:20. Go. Like I should have said something else there.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind helping me move the chairs, so we need 3 listeners and 1 facilitator in each corner. Corner because it's a little awkward. Here's another one like here. Just have, Jen, if you don't mind, please pull your chair
No, that one, so I rented
up
that one.
as
for
well.
$40 off
And then we need one more.
I think, because it was the $100 one, right?
Oh gosh, this is so light.
So you want my chair to stay here?
Probably, right? It's your call,
Yeah, so
however
I'm
you feel
gonna
comfortable.
eventually, at the end of the
That work?
year, I'm gonna buy it off of Amazon, but I just rented it now. so
Yeah.
If you're not a facilitator, you can sit wherever you want, in one of the corners, where there's an open seat.
It's the 7th edition, that's why. It has to be the 7th edition.
For which one? It's like, I'm gonna steal your chair out from under your jacket. Don't try to sit down. Facilitator needs a chair.
Do you still have the physical copy of the book? I got it
Do
on,
I?
yeah. So you're doing it though, right? I
use
use
it for now.
It's okay. If you're, no, because you need it too, it's fine. I have it.
Are you asking about my spare copy? I do have a spare copy still, but it's at home. I didn't bring it.
Okay,
Need it?
I bought it on Kindle, but for our other classes for this, I just wish I had not have done that. So if there was like a random extra one.
Do you want to borrow
I would
my?
buy it.
I'll just buy it because I want it.
You're gonna need it throughout this
Yeah,
whole
you're gonna
program.
keep it through the whole program. So if you're not loving Kindle, I would say
So
buy it.
this one's the e-textbook, that's why.
Okay.
So if you rent it, it's literally like $40 to rent on Amazon, and then at the end of your rental agreement, which is like the day you bought it, so like 6 months after, you can choose to purchase it. I bought every single one of my books except for that one, just because it was $100 at the time, and I did not feel like spending $100.
Yeah. But with the ebooks, you can't do that. Okay.
You just have to buy the ebooks. I can't do ebooks, so I cannot stare at a computer that long. And I like to annotate.
I like the ebooks too.
I don't know. Is
Oh,
there-
yeah, actually, I still have to, like, I write in my book completely, I highlight everything, like.
No, like, Google book, they will allow you to keep, footnotes.
Yeah, I got a little.
Yeah. Well, I did know you can highlight book part.
Can you make notes on it?
Yeah, but it's not, you can probably print it, but it's not, I love all of that.
I think
But
so, yeah.
I think what it is like, when you guys can open your tangible book,
As I
like when
understand,
you're,
reading
I
a
have to like log
passage
into something.
from
Yeah.
chapter 3 is what
So
I'll
look,
do.
this one was
So
20
read a
bucks.
passage to you guys and then
Yeah.
facilitate conversation. I don't have like prepared questions, but I'll kind of just.
You did this, you're gonna do this for the next 2 years.
I already have,
Yeah.
so.
There's that
here.
one.
Okay, so.
Right,
you
so
are
I just stay there and you
Chapter
rotate
3,
around.
okay?
Did you
So
buy
Chapter
yeah.
3, yeah. Do you want me to go over there now? Are you telling me where to read?
Oh, yeah.
Go through there. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, but you're a group as well.
Chapter 5.
You-
So then it goes
Oh,
around.
And then you rotate, you'll rotate.
Oh,
Yes.
we have 4.
I'll be
Oh,
there. I'll
no,
start
I
here.
think 4. Well, 3 is 30.
She's
Oh.
a facilitator as
Yeah, I
well.
think, yeah.
Okay,
Are
you
they
want
doing-
some? I'll just start here. Don't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then you all,
$37.
everyone's gonna rotate around to each group.
Each group.
There's gonna be.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Rotate.
Yeah.
So we have 3.
You
You
can
can say
why.
here. Yeah. Oh, I mean.
Yeah, Dorothy's doing chapter 5.
She's chapter 5.
But you're gonna do each of them.
Yeah.
This, no, this
Oh,
is the
and
one
it's
on-
warm.
Well, the
Yeah.
worst water ever.
I write it out, like,
Yeah.
oh,
Wait, okay.
oh,
20 a.m. Yeah.
That's what I think we should.
We also need a find something question or anything.
I think I'm just having an open discussion.
Open discussion.
Yeah, just kind of like build
I know.
on. Yeah. I'll just-
Okay.
So.
So when you're close to the other class, like, that's what guys, I've done the practice like during that class.
Neither have
I
I.
do by midnight.
Yeah, nope, I'm not even gonna get to them until 12.
I
actually have it for all of my classes. That's
Yeah.
everything I've done. I'm been communicative about it, but, it's stressful. I think you're doing better than you think you are. You know, I think you just want to do a good job, right? But like,
I don't want to get behind, once I get behind, so then next week, which is what happened last, there was some stuff that I kind of had to tie out. Because I did it, but not like the way that he handed it, you know, so I had to bring that up, and then it took like, trying to fit it in between,
you know.
the rest of my life.
Okay, so our group, we have.
Just whenever.
And then tell yourself, once I get to Andy, I'll sit down and
I'm trying to figure that out. Amy is here.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think you'll be in there. Yeah.
No, you're good. You'll be
Very.
So chapter 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5.
He wants to read the same passage.
Yeah.
So I started to think. So like,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
something, right?
yeah, we're all
So,
going.
so maybe I try to be like, stay there, like, I'll keep this, schedule work, try to to start, I was like, really morning, so I know they kind of. So yeah, but I also want to she's really flexible. So if you try it, you learn a lot.
Yeah, don't stress too much about that. For this,
I would have to look at it.
5 hours, whatever.
I just love these ready just to start.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, 5 hours.
I understand, like, I actually, I was, because I was,
It's a nice 30-ish minutes drive from work to so
was like,
it'll be. You know what? I go to the elementary school. If you go.
All right, it is 8:20. So facilitators, you have 10 minutes in this first round. I might cut it a little shorter as we go. I don't want to be here till 9:30 tonight. So let's go 10, maybe 8 to 10 minutes in this first round. So again, the facilitators will share the passage that they've selected, and then you'll have a conversation, and I'll probably pop in and join some of the groups. And then just have an open conversation. If you also have a passage that you want to share with the group too, that is fine as well. All right, any questions? All right, facilitators, take it away.
Okay. Okay, so page 70. And I realize like probably you guys, maybe if you're like me, maybe forgot, like read it and like forgot or whatever. So, yeah, I'm just gonna.
I tried to highlight it this time.
Yeah, but it's hard to like sort of, but like I'm
Yeah.
just gonna read it.
But there's too much reading to take notes, like at this stage.
Sometimes I finish the reading.
Yeah.
I remember.
I get it.
But I
So
take notes, I remember it, because I wrote it down.
I'm reading the chosen because it's relevant, but like then after this was like the section of the discussion. So don't leave like whatever pops up. And then it's just gonna like get that one. So, okay, so teaching identities as a learner. It's important to know that for educators, we can't teach students to know themselves and others. Teachers must first do their own self-work. This work involves teachers deeply unpacking their own histories, biases, assumptions, and tensions with racism and other oppressions they have learned, experienced, and witnessed. I ask teachers to be honest about who they are and who they are not. In other words, if they have no intention of teaching young children to know, celebrate their lives, trying to begin that work,
I'm gonna look into that too.
or if they have good intentions, but then fail to push forward action, that's also problematic. I ask teachers
Like I
to
tell
see
you
their
that
armchair
I'm
revolutionary, like professors
I don't know if they
change, we look at it comfortable in your chairs.
Yeah, I know at the beginning of any of this, like SAT or like big exams like that, you have a series
I
of
guess I
personal
would say, I
questions
mean,
that
I
you
know
have
for
to
me,
answer
it's hard
first.
to like listen and make a decision.
Yeah, as if
But,
that,
do you remember when you read that or
it's a
as
huge section. I'm pretty sure there was 30
like
or 40
I
minutes
like
blocked out
well,
just for
I
that.
have not been reaction like reading stuff like
I
this.
asked that it also gets your adversity score as in addition to.
I actually highlighted that part.
Yeah.
And I think I related to, I think it was one of the chapters that I mentioned here today. Or one of, it was for one of the classes.
Yeah.
Sometimes like you have like like, kind of almost a joke, like, because, you know, let's say you can do something and we kind of like look similar, we have the same abilities to do things. And you're like, oh my gosh, why Rafa doesn't do the same as me? So like,
If you're gonna require.
you just assume like what I'm not
If you know
doing,
it's problematic.
and you don't know what's going on in my life.
Right.
So when I wrote down, I think it was one of the special courses, and I don't remember if it was this class or other class, and I was like, before I used to be like, oh, that person looks like the same as me, they have the same qualities, why they cannot do that? So I think when I was younger, I was like, I never really thought about actually looking at people and be like, maybe they have something going on. They might look happy, they might look healthy, but maybe something's going on that I don't know, that I cannot make assume, oh, they should be able to do it, because I don't know exactly what's going on. So I think that now I'm better on that, I'm trying to understand it a little bit better, instead of kind of almost like a judge, like, oh, if I can do it, they can do it. I was always to that point, and I think like,
Like being a little righteous.
Yeah.
I get like that sometimes where it's just like, well, that's just right. That's just kind of like there's all black.
yeah, so I feel like once I got a little bit older, like, you know, like dating or anything like that, and stuff, I feel like I got more open mind to it. Well, that's not actually just like what I can do, other people can do. There are things that impact their lives.
You sat the test.
And there are things that they can do that they cannot. Before I was just too easy to say this.
Well, you mentioned, I see someone like similar, like,
So there was a lot of stigma that you're like, so
Yeah.
in this honors class, we just simply for sitting in that classroom, they get 5%, like 3%, that makes sense, why don't we all have all of us? But, so my school, I ended up getting rid of someone admissions test for the honors class, and just required that you maintain a level.
No, no, I think for that, like, they're able to do that. I don't know, but I always felt that like I could encourage people to do as much as I could, but at the same time, I was like, if they don't, then I get frustrated. So like, I had the point that like, that everyone is able to do, but then I have,
a lot of people like when everybody has innate ability.
but then I have the bad side, I was like, why they can't do it, that without actually knowing.
Right.
So that's the thing that I feel like, and I did, so now when I started getting better, I was like, well, I need to do better, that I, there are things that.
I feel like the word bias is very like it's important that it comes up, and when it's like you gotta look at your own biases. We're all here, we're all like, I think everybody has potential. And you're like, have bias. And I also wonder this phrase armchair revolutionary.
I didn't
Did you
understand.
guys agree?
I didn't understand what she meant by that.
So the only reason I understood it probably was because there's a podcast called Armchair Expert, which is basically this guy that gives advice as if he's a professional therapist, but he's totally not. So an armchair revolutionary. Revolutionary is like, I'm ready to change. I want to change, wrong, we're still wrong, but we're just sitting in our chairs. So we have these deep beliefs, but like, are we using our power by just conceptualizing them? So it's like, you're like, this is wrong, students are being segregated, or there is racism in our school, or communities that are. Now we're like, because I look at what in my life and I'm like, well, like there you are posting on Facebook about cause, or we have these political teachers, you're voting for this person, voting for that person, we're so passionate, but like, obviously I don't really ever talking to anyone who's struggling. You're clearly this is all these people are fighting with your own family over these ideas. But you're putting more energy into being opposed to somebody than you are to just going out and helping. But I do the same thing. So it's like, I'm like, yeah, they're like, so am I. So I didn't know if you guys have your passage like that, where it seems to be tasking
you have to, so like know yourself, you're watching your biases, and like feeling a little like, you know what I mean? Like,
That part kind of makes me uncomfortable because like I know what I believe and I know like what we've taught our children and you know, like
in this same section.
against racism and we think that we're so like understanding and so much better, but then it's like if they talk about
Sticky
like,
noted
what
just the entire section of the evidence.
Right.
so sure,
And a lot of it
like the people that are in
is not even necessarily
like, what am I doing?
features,
Right.
but then like part of it is lack of planning time.
But then it makes me nervous because
They-
I know this is what I
know, even in just a pre-K class where I'm
but I don't know how to
2 hours.
You know, I'm afraid I'm not gonna know.
To
I'm
actually
afraid I'm
plan
gonna be the
things
armchair
that.
teacher who's
and
going,
have the
yeah,
time
we
to
should
create
do
those
culturally
things to
relevant.
actually work.
How do you do it?
I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
sometimes I feel the same.
But I don't know how, like, other than being nice and being sensitive, like, how do I actually?
Yeah, I feel the same. Like, I feel like I get it every single point, and like at the same time, like, yeah, I get it. Like, I can just go and try to help us, like, get the help they need. Do what I can, be nice, try to encourage them. But like, is that enough? Like, what's exactly like how to actually impact even more? You guys to the point of it's like can't be like an armchair. I'm just like, you know, I have all the information, but how can I actually put in action that to make a big difference, not just be like, okay, I do a little bit better than people that you should teach me, but it's still not like to that point that I want to be.
If they weren't criticized by their bosses on those scores of
But I
their
heard what you're
students, they
saying,
wouldn't
like,
put
raise
as
our
much
kids
stress
or
on
teach our
students.
kids, so like, these are our values.
They get
Values are sort of
attacked
like
about that in
weird,
reviews.
it's like, these are our
I know
values.
at
And then
least
you try to model it,
because
model, I am
the
not racist, or I am.
that year.
Right, so like,
She got
usually
like,
ask,
like your students
or,
are very
like,
yeah.
but like, first of all, really look at yourself and see where
When
you're
I was
at.
crazy, because everyone loved, it was a teacher, and it was unusual rate is common for like switching again, so there wasn't much experience.
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable
Like,
because
I don't have the time to like go, you want me to go figure out like all of my. But it's not coming. You have just 15 more seconds. In the last 15 seconds. It's not a passage, I didn't read it, but it's such a good. And I just appreciated how she said, ask students to tell you in their own words how they see their various identities. And when they tell you who they are, listen and try. Which I thought was like, okay, wrap up. I was like,
I want to.
right. So you're having so much to have that trust that they're.
Okay, if you are
adding for you.
as a visitor, I would like you to stand and find a new place. You do not need to go in any special order. You can mix it up. You can switch up your groups. You can play food. But find a new seat.
But you don't have to travel together.
Wherever you would like to go. You don't have to stay with your group. Switch it up. Just make sure you go to a new setting with new dress.
It's just easier to move.
All right, go ahead. You can take the roller chair. I'm gonna float this time.
If rolling chairs on their backs that move, they feel very uncomfortable. Like, it's like with this, like I can't move, so like if I push back. I'm gonna feel like I'm uncomfortable. I have the balance of. I jumped it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, chapter 5, what are we talking about?
I was in chapter 3 over there, something that's what we got for. I don't know why. No, I caught it. And then I got hit.
Oh,
I just,
cool, I'm going in.
I was like, oh, 3, 4, I don't know.
Backwards.
I'm just gonna read. Really like, but then I'm not able to finish, so that's so, starts here, and it's just a section that says asking how they see themselves. So ask students to tell you in their own words how they see their various identities. And when they tell you who they are, listen and
for science.
No.
One
Various identity
factors related to economic.
Various, I thought was interesting.
That is related to
Having to be told to listen,
high stakes
like
for
we're
skills
educators,
and unfair bias judgment to valid
yeah, but like she's
intelligence and learning.
imploring us to listen and then
Other marginalized groups, so
yeah,
like
definitely
that.
say.
Yeah.
So keep that in the back of your mind.
Bias and racism are common throughout
It's
America.
important to know. There's like sometimes science projects that incorporate.
Yes.
It is important to know that the
Well,
lower
I mean,
education and to teach students.
Wait, actually, I mean, yeah, those tests are measured what you learn. And it's not like what you learn, it's like things that they want. And I think intelligence is much more broad than those couple of things that you really have to know for SAT. And not to mention, like those high stakes tests, like they cause bunch of anxiety. But that's.
Ask teachers to be honest about who they
Yeah,
are
they're created by
and who they are not.
people who want to get
In other
rich
words,
and
they have to
and like bad scrolls.
to know how to celebrate their lives.
Yeah, they're really not.
That work
Very
themselves.
small percent of people that.
Or
they
they
really
have
do
good
want.
intentions, but then fail to push toward action.
I
That's also
do not have
problematic.
experience with
I asked
SAT, like, they
Yeah.
have something similar in Brazil.
Armchair
To kind of get this course, so you just see for a second, because like doing laws or.
But I'm gonna look at it
And
comfortably.
I feel like most there,
So,
the people that actually
yeah,
take
just
college or
any
they
thoughts
that
on
go
you?
to private school. The ones that in public school, usually they don't go to the nice college just because they don't have access to information. So for instance, me when I was.
Go ahead, you go ahead. I could never stop talking.
No,
I
I think about this one,
private school, and then I
every
moved to a
teacher,
public school right after everybody had to work more at first. So it's
those
good.
things,
I did my high school. for
learning about this,
And everything that was actually learning in high
so they
school,
need to be,
I learned in private
when
school,
do
fifth to
some
sixth
work
grade.
about
Right now, we're
So it's just
themselves.
a huge difference between
What is
private
that?
and public school. That's like not
Students. Because
that's how I was experienced. Like,
everyone needs to
so
know about.
and so even if when I got to high school,
Clear,
just having like until fifth or sixth grade applications, I was way ahead of people that studied college.
Doing good. You're doing it.
So
Yeah,
that's like kind of unfair. How
I
are you
think
gonna
about that,
make it
and that's, I agree with this,
somebody
like,
that has too much
every teacher needs to be
information and
self-work,
somebody
without
that
that,
like just don't
teach
have access to
student
it?
about this
Like
identity.
it was bullshit.
So teachers need to be know about properly what is the identities and what need to be teach to students.
And the way they said that though, is
Yeah.
some really personal stuff, like,
Yeah.
what are our own identity, history, biases, assumptions, like, would you be able off the top of your head to be like, well, these are my biases, or like, these are my assumptions, do we know these things about ourselves?
Racism and other actions they have learned, experience and practice.
Well, even when, I'll just say it, we have a transgender, our other teacher's transgender.
Right.
I've never really had any real close relationship with anyone transgender, but I have been trying to learn how to talk about it in a way that's not hurtful to them in any way and is socially acceptable. So these things that we don't even know we have, that culture brings up, that you want. So then there's another part of it though too, it's like you want to be culturally relevant, but you also have your own beliefs and opinions. And you have to be able to navigate what that would look like in a professional setting, because as much as you want to do the right thing,
And it's
maybe what the
the
culture telling you
suburb
is the
schools
right
don't
thing
give up
isn't always gonna be what you believe.
their money. I mean, and the people in the suburbs would never want
Or
to.
we're against the
Like,
culture or
I
a
would-
type of person
the fact
or,
that
so it's hard.
pay for Greece in school, they don't want to pay for my school because I live in Greece, I don't pay much in school taxes because I have so much business in my town that it takes down my school tax. Whereas like around here, we don't have laws that it's on the west side, and so my school tax is much higher.
It's important,
One
is
thing that
it
I
of the
discover our
discover our bias?
ask too much of his knowledge regarding books and stuff like that. I don't ask for
different
like
assumptions, like
communication
set them.
stuff. He
I
also
mean, I think those are
to be honest,
related
if you go to a business major, it's not about everything that you know to do. It's about like the communication of how you can talk to each other to
his
do
or her
things.
identity
So depending on what
those
I
things.
should
So
do,
maybe
I
those are
feel like
also
the
related.
communication is also
So we
important.
need
I
to
don't
know,
know.
since as a teacher,
Because
need
it's
to know
different when it
something.
comes, let's say, for a class, when
Someone
you actually go out.
otherwise their cultural
There
background.
are people that I know that are like.
So why? Like, what's the value? Like, how does that change the teaching?
They're just like.
I kind of disagree though, because as much as I think it would be helpful to know everything, I think that if we create the right kind of space, the kids will teach us as we go, as we learn. So like, well, not saying we're not responsible to know things, but just to say, as we go into this class, and we're gonna get a new set of kids, we can't be prepared for every single thing. I mean, obviously, at 35, I know a lot more than I did when I was 25.
Book smart,
And you build on your own experience,
common sense
whatever.
smart,
But
or
I think allowing, instead of like teaching them about who they are, you're teaching them how to be who they are.
specific.
But how can we,
So-
how can we truly understand that if we are?
No.
So you get a new set of kids, let's say you got 5 kids.
Like, I totally feel like it's called like
One
focus
is
class, like
from
for
a
the
different
language. My
Each
first
one is
batch,
different.
like out of the hundred and
Their
twenty,
culture different, their
I had no idea how to speak English.
Some are being
I was
raised
just
by,
horrible.
yeah, some are,
And
some
it was like that for me,
are,
when I
what,
first came
just
to
everything.
class, I didn't speak
And
English.
if we
I took
kind
my
of sat down and
test
took
after
kids in my class and
14
graphic,
months,
like, well, here's what I feel this kid is
and
doing.
I
Based
didn't
on
feel
my,
English. All I did
how it's
was
gonna be
take
like this, and
the
here's why.
same test,
And then we
every
got
single
more
day,
like,
5, 6 hours.
All right,
So
that's
I'm
fair.
gonna
you know,
Yeah.
that way.
That's more how to grade the test and
Yeah.
actually like testing your knowledge. That's how
I like that, like, I like the idea of considering our own thoughts currently.
We're gonna
But,
ask them about theirs.
right,
Shouldn't we do that work if we're gonna be in that
oh, of
relationship?
course, but not, I don't think that we have
Okay,
to
stop.
just pretend to know everything.
You're so deep in conversation.
No, we have a very deep conversation. Someone agree, someone not agree, so.
Okay, rotate to your third person.
Well,
Maybe
I keep
that's
going like that.
We'll discuss that after we continue.
Bye, guys.
I'm gonna
I
take
know,
a
I
chair.
hope we don't
I'm gonna take a chair with me on.
Have you been, okay. Okay, do you need someone over here? Can we make a pathway here so that Jen can get through track? Emmy, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I have to tell, so that's my, yours. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanna write down the notes. But I'm gonna, obviously, you're not going to cheat it. I'm here, shade, shade. I don't know.
Rather than resolving the problem, the recent adversity scores.
Oh, yeah, they're supposed to be keeping notes.
Well,
Maybe. Okay, so did I say 71?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna write something like 71, like a message, not a just to sort of like trust the wheel, because I think it says something really important, and then I'm gonna go to 78 and just read like part of it.
Go for it.
Okay, so 71, it's right under where it says ask students how they see themselves, and this is the first chapter on literary identity, like, ask students to tell you in their words how they see their various identities. And when they tell you who they are, listen, and trust them. So that sentence is pretty straightforward, it's 2 sentences, but I think it's kind of remarkable to clarify, listen, right, we're educators, like, of course we're listening, but it's like, there must be something there, trust, which I think is like, young women, you're going to say, but it's not trust, right? But I think those are 2 powerful words, and then the word various, I think is very valid, right? Like
in the beginning of the
right, so, page 70.
I don't remember that at all.
Who's to say that they can classify how hard their life is based on a couple
So
of.
it says, it is important to know that before educators begin to teach students to know themselves and others, teachers must first do their own self-work.
Instead of
This
adding.
work involves teachers deeply unpacking their own histories, identities, biases, assumptions, intentions with racism, and other oppressions they have learned, experienced, and practiced. I ask teachers to be honest about who they are and who they are not. In other words, if they have no intention of teaching young children to know or celebrate their lives, they need to begin that work with themselves.
So it sounds like somebody's trying to
Or
kind of like.
if they have good intentions, but fail to take action, it's also problematic. I ask teachers if they are arbitrary revolutionaries or best. There's some
Right.
for change, but only look at it comfortably from the top.
We have a lot of kids now that like.
So, any thoughts? you guys might have?
Really well, but they're asking to do slightly different.
They talk about, I think we talk about all the same stuff. You're all gonna know my personal life. But for this one, so I mentioned this in our discussion
What we're doing.
in 601, but the second chapter, reflection asks, like, how do you see students' identities in yourself? And I gave some answer that was like nothing what it was asking, like I did not understand that. And then this question asked, who are you? Like I think this is the chapter that said, who are you? And she gave, yeah, so she gave these bulleted lists or whatever. And like, I was able to like by this list, write a whole page and a half, like I could have written more about who I was and like identify myself, which I think like relatively helped me to understand how to get students to engage in like identifying themselves as well, like having these starter sentences to be like, hey, if you need some ideas, this is what you need to like look at and stuff. I really found that like helpful. So I was like, I dug deeper into my own life that I like never even thought about. You know?
Yeah. So the house stood out to you, but
Yeah.
it was like such a big concept, right? And you're like, yes, yes, totally. That's like the whole art share. I agree. And you know, like where your affiliation is, and what it was changing lives. Yeah, I agree. And then resource Michigan, like what I
Yeah. I agree with that. See, that's all new. Like, I knew that
It's so easy to just,
I knew the structure.
like, you don't realize that that's what I'm doing.
I got my
Right, from the minute you're born, it's just like develop inside you.
What
And
is
like,
the value in that? I don't get it.
you can go your whole life, yeah, and it's always not like actively. Like inherently as a white person, I am a person, and it's like, you cannot deny it, like.
I wrote that in my
Just
paper.
like, and people, and one of my professors in social media said that, and people were like, so.
Well, I was gonna say, how did that make you guys feel? But I do think generationally, like, you guys are kind of like, wait, what? But you're open to like, your whole lives, you're like, And then they'll be like,
Yeah, right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but like at first, when someone said that too, like when I first said that, like I feel like you would just go to class and be like,
Yeah, I know.
what are you, but then you like think about it, it's like, we have always, like, as young people, I do this, I feel like we have always had to always, like, it's just so that it works to
Yeah.
right, not people of color, it never was created to like, for color, like,
program is setting us up for like our country like that. And it's benefiting from what it is, like failure and like because like it sounds like you think a lot bigger than.
but it was built on like the opportunity, like white people
well, it's very opportunistic, right? It's that
We're gonna have to figure out. Like, I wonder if we're gonna come to point in
And so, are there any biases that you're like, when you're reading this type of chapter? And I know you've probably done a lot of Citation now, did classes before you like, no, now that you use it, that would be assumption.
The first bias is not understanding that you're part of the problem, I feel like. It's like reading this, I'm not gonna lie.
In what way?
Like, so when I read this, I was like, honestly, my first thought was like, oh my God, are we actually reading about this? Like, we've lived the last year in like only hearing about this stuff. And like, my boyfriend, like, he is a Trump supporter, let's get that right, like, very, very
It's a contentious time.
Yeah.
It's like,
But like, for that, like, I'm excited to read about this stuff now, understanding that like, I shouldn't be saying like, oh, I've been doing this for 2 years, like, I'm more engaged in this than I ever have been, so like, when I started talking about it, he's still in that phase, like, I'm done talking about it, like, I think if I would have given him this book and said, read this, which I'm going to after I'm done with it, I think he would be willing to engage more.
but the access to the information that you
All
have.
right,
And it's not something that everybody's talking about or looking up on the internet.
Go to your last one and
Oh, I'm sorry, we cut Shaylee off, so we're just letting her
No, how, what, where, how?
I
We'll let you talk
told
here,
you.
Don't worry.
Oh my God, my hair looks
I went
awful.
backwards.
Now.
Oh, why are you going?
Except for 3.
You look easy breezy, don't worry.
Okay, chapter
I
3,
look like
hold
a
on.
nurse inside.
Oh. This is the fun.
All right.
I don't remember,
Yeah, Shaylee.
but I did.
Chapter
Who are
Here we
you?
go, keep working,
Some
wrapped up,
animal.
okay, so I.
Yeah, you're
I'm not quite
Doing
the,
this thing, so I'm on page 71, and this is, no. Not. I'm only.
So did I. Chapter 5,
oh,
Anyway, I'm just reading 2 sentences on 71, and then we're going to 78 where I'm reading an actual excerpt.
oh man,
Because I have trouble.
it's way too much reading.
Put in column.
Anyway, so on page 71, under ask students how they see themselves. This is just sort of my way of greasing the wheel into identity and like before I read it. So it says, ask students to tell you in their own words how they see their various identities. When they tell you who they are, listen and trust them. And so the words listen and trust, I kind of thought were profound in terms of identity, and I wanted that to carry over to this next passage. On page 78, it just starts right at the top. It says, it is important to know that before educators begin to teach students to know themselves and others, teachers must first do their own self-work.
Go for it.
Involves deep unpacking their own histories, identities, biases, assumptions, and tensions with racism and other oppressions that they have learned, experienced, and practiced. I ask teachers to be honest about who they are and who they are not. In other words, if they have no intention of teaching their children to know and celebrate their lives, they need to begin that work with themselves. Or if they have good intentions and fail to push toward action, it's also problematic. I ask teachers if they are armchair revolutionaries, who profess their support for change, but only look at it from the chairs. So I was just like, I guess I would say what that passage might mean to you, or.
Well, we need to learn who we are before we can really, ask other people who they are. If you don't know who you are, you're never gonna believe other people when they tell you who they are. You're gonna always be skeptical of other people's answers because you're not comfortable with who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I worry that I'm an armchair revolutionary, that I don't do enough, right? That I do a lot of reading and thinking, and making mistakes. Right. But what am I really doing?
I don't know if that was a confession that was allowed to have a follow-up, but I think that.
It may, yes.
I think that giving people the space to talk about it is a huge action in itself, because there's not a lot of environments where people can go and safely express how they're feeling about certain issues, or have conversation without the fear of what others are going to say or how they're going to. So that's, it's really, like I was saying earlier, like I actually shared it because of the people I'm surrounded with, and then it was really good, just standard in the room. Having that. Great. I think there's a little bit, I'll post it over, that it was talking about, like, it had the list of questions that could be asked, and a lot of things, when you're asked, who are you, especially with some people, they're not really gonna know how to respond directly to that unless you ask the further thoughts, right? But those are absolutely important. Hey, how do you describe yourself, but also just what's home like, right? How did you, what did you enjoy about just little details they wouldn't even think to bring out about their identity, you have to kind of prompt out of them. And then it also, right below, it says, engaging in dialogue will help you to know that they have a powerful voice, and will help them know too that their perspectives are being valued. So just having those conversations with your students to make them know that you care about what they're saying will allow them to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Even if you start off with.
I think you're all touching on things that all the other words have touched on, like said in every group, like how can you express yourself? You don't know your own identity. And then the question would always be hanging, like, yeah, okay, I get that, but like, how do I describe our relationship there, feel like unearth our histories and share those languages, because we're all like, we all are, like, anybody's interested in this. It's a little bit of abstract, but like your observation of like creating a space to normalize content. I think a lot of people in these conversations, whatever, but like, oh wow, I need to talk about this. Like, this is amazing, and it releases like this energy. Like above the garage, and like it was a warm up. And then you referring to that list, you have another list too. Everybody's stuff back around, and I think and like my brother and I are last year, and like my rate, but it's like I'm like trying to validate that like I think how is where we're all
in like a police. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that. And like every week we go over
Yeah,
there.
and I was
buy
wondering if
it,
in the
it's
past,
like
like,
$50.
it's a negative, like, where
Like,
you're
I'm not
like,
even kidding you, I literally
well, I'm
remember
on
going
board,
through it, and I like
now
right after
I
that,
have to
I
go back to being
like, I'm not doing it.
now I have to feel bad for being like,
Right.
and now I have to teach, but I also have to like,
And
think
like,
about
I
it,
think
you know, and I hang out with the biases, and I'm like, is everybody willing to push or choose that way?
I think knowing yourself also is knowing that you're not gonna know everything. You've gotta understand that, there are some things that you're a mystery to yourself sometimes. But as long as you're authentic with your kids, they're gonna, someone can read through a fake without a doubt. Like, if you're afraid, if you're fake with them, they will see through you and they will make sure you know. So if you're authentic with them, they will be more able to be who they are. And you can really trust them. They're gonna tell you the truth because little kids have no filter and tell you the truth.
Do you guys think that there's good questions about identity, bad questions, like say what calling, like,
For one part, they were focusing on all the
like, and then you're like,
we're asking them like down,
like,
come again.
that
Why
or could be ourselves,
We
like,
weren't
I'm really
really about why versus like,
celebrating
why,
that,
if that makes sense.
wondering.
I just feel like we all need to take a step back and like
that.
fully educate
Like,
ourselves on like
so many.
what it is that they're going through and like understand how we can make that change and like progress forward the better.
I thought it was like, way out there, but it was a little bit in the news for that. And so I don't know how hard to like,
Right now to
kids were talking
start
about
gravitating
sometimes that it's happened for these years, you know, and the teachers, they made an incentive to like.
Well, it was one of the kids in the classroom. It was like her younger brother who was only 11 committed suicide like the year before, and it set off. And the administration kind of just like glossed over the whole thing. And just like nothing else.
But this, I feel like this feeds into people being like, I really care, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. Not that that person doesn't seem like that comment anyway, and it's hard. But
No.
like, I do think there are people who would care and would be at a loss for, I'm gonna say the wrong thing, I'm not articulate, like.
I'm always afraid to say the wrong thing, or just kind of like I mean the right thing, but it just comes out the wrong way.
I feel so awesome, like, because more than one person is like, this list, because I think we're all like, I want this, and I want to impart this, and also like, how. And she tells me how to, like, she says, do it, and I took that literally, like, I did that. Yeah. If you're open to your kids, like, you read it and you think about yourself, you're not like, I guess humans are so narcissistic that you can't help but like, because that's like, willing to change, that's the thing. But you're right, it starts with you, probably because we are.
Everything starts with us. But if it doesn't start with us, like, how can it doesn't start? And it's like you can't be genuine if you aren't genuine, like genuine no as much as you can.
I do feel like she highlights trusting kids.
I hate this,
For a reason.
but we have to
Yeah.
stop.
Once
It's
again,
kind of
we
tough.
are.
Would say I don't trust
If
my
you
kids.
could turn your chair
You gotta trust them to say that they are gonna give you the truth. But you also have those kids that are just gonna say things because they're gonna say it. You gotta know which ones. Yeah. That might just be those kids that come across. They're never gonna be up there.
whole row of seats. If you could just make sure all the seats get back so on.
Assuming.
Does everyone have a seat for the bums? I felt so bad cutting off these conversations. They were so rich. They were so good. Thank you to the 4 discussion leaders. I
I'm ever grateful for you. The last thing I want to do is hear from our discussion leaders. I did kind of keep in and stay with each group for one of the sessions, so I was thrilled with what I was hearing. But I didn't get to hear the other three, and neither did all of you. So if we could hear, let's start with Amy. We'll just go in order. Chapter 3 first. Can you just give us the highlights, Amy?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
who's water?
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. I didn't know. Oh, that's sorry.
chapter 3 was on literary identity and cultivating that in students. And so you all heard the passages. Oh, you were there. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the only thing the facilitators didn't get to rotate.
You would think I could keep my ADD in check in that one. Didn't happen.
You're good.
Anyway, a big theme was everybody just sort of feeling in agreement, like, yeah, Dr. Muhammad's saying so many great things. We need to know ourselves well. We need to check our biases. We need to trust that we have these biases and hold ourselves accountable and do the work so that we can be proper advocates for these students. But each group came to a very similar sort of space that was like, basically kind of, am I this armchair revolutionary, where we're so invested in this idea, but maybe we're not doing enough action to affect change. But there were some great connections made that was like creating space alone for helping each individual student cultivate identity is the beginning of affecting change. It's thought change, change and the way ideas are transferred. And another big theme was how, like, which was very validating to me as a person, because that is like the whole program. I'm always like, yeah, and then inside I'm like, how? I have no idea how to create a lesson plan. Like, I just want a lesson plan guru. I want the lesson plans, and then I will do the work. But it's like it's terrifying to want to make the changes and not know how. And then there were lists and resources that were like, Jen and Raphael, we didn't get to that, but like within that chapter, there were lists and resources that are like, ask these questions, or here's these lesson plans that help us not only do the work on ourselves, since everybody doesn't have time for therapy or resources for a therapist. But everybody, it was cool to see how everybody was sort of like on the same page and talking about how we know we need to know ourselves better, but we need to expand.
Resource to share. It seems like this is a theme. If you have not read Me and White Supremacy, and it's by Layla Saad. So I think it's like $20. It's a workbook, so it's not a book that you're going to sit down and read. But if this is feeling new to you, if this idea of exploring your own identity, and I heard Amy say that a bunch of people were wondering, how do I do that? Do I just go to therapy? There are resources, and that one is one that I highly recommend. Nazareth did this text as a college read. So they opened it to all faculty and staff on campus. They ran book clubs and book groups around it. It's amazing. It's a workbook, and every day you journal about something about your identity, and through it you explore the idea of white supremacy and how we all hold privilege in different ways. It's the best, most effective tool I've ever used in helping me to understand my racism, because we all have racism. That's the idea of the text. Who I am, how I am, who I am, and what I can do about it. So if you're feeling like, gosh, I don't know where to start, I would highly recommend that. And there's other texts out there.
I'm also going to plug, there's a lot of dialogues that Nazareth does about where they have various speakers and talk through the community, the Center for Community Belonging. So like there's one this Saturday that it's like kind of like a workshop thing where they ask us to bring journals so we can write on the subjects on racial justice. And there's a whole bunch coming up. So
Can you do you go to them? Are you affiliated somehow with
yeah,
Community be involved. Could you give us updates, like when I do
Yeah.
announcements at the start of class, could you just let us know if there's something coming up?
I have a spreadsheet of all the different upcoming ones.
Oh,
so I
and
kinda
even
compiled it.
if you email me in advance, I can put it right in the slides for everybody to know. That would be awesome. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, Amy. Okay, Felicia, chapter 4, what were the findings?
Some common themes, we were talking about like skills and how you can't just teach one skill. Somebody said mastering skills, but you can't think outside of the box, or like using those skills to cultivate other skills. And then we also talked about like the assessments and standardized testing, and some people brought up like they were good students, but they did bad on the test, and like what that did to their self-esteem and like their futures. And then also discussed who's making these tests, who's profiting off of them. So those were some of the common themes.
Yeah, I heard a lot of folks talking about the testing, the accountability that teachers have to the test, and all of that feeds into this idea that we are hyper focused on skills, skills, skills over all of the other areas of the framework. Thank you. Michelle?
That's a really nice segue because
Oh,
the
good.
paragraph that I talked about or focused on in chapter 5 was about the racial biases of standardized testing. So we had a lot of good conversations about that for sure. We learned about the adversity score, which you may not know about with the SAT, that ranks somehow your adversity that can serve as information to college admissions counselors to take into account, like, to try to like get them to think holistically why your score might not be higher than something. Talked about it's, I guess, an attempt at some sort of affirmative action, which seems great, but if it's acknowledging that the test is racist, just like a Band-Aid on top, and why not just abolish and redo from the beginning. So talked a lot about that in both groups. Talked about, what does it mean to abolish standardized tests? And how does that look in terms of accountability for teachers, making sure like learning is still happening, but like there's so much learning that you can put onto a test, and like the difference between like intelligence and test content. Talked about mental health and anxieties around it. We talked a lot about property taxes in one of my groups, and like how to fund and funding schools. I guess, yeah, that was all it. Yeah, there's a bunch of random other stuff.
Thanks for pulling out the key themes. And chapter 6 was Sarah, right?
Yeah, and it was on criticality. There was a lot of stuff we covered, but some of the big themes were that the teaching criticality and how to view things from perspectives and look at the systems of power and oppression is one of the best ways to get to know your students and bond with them and make sure that they feel valued in the classroom. And one of the things someone said is, why would you go into this if you didn't care about your students? So part of caring about them is getting to know them. And also we talked about the difference between facts and truth. We can teach the facts, but we help the students discover their truths. And learning, another thing was about the difference between right and wrong with morality versus legality. Something can be morally wrong and legally right, and teaching and showing that you don't have to always look at the law to know whether something's right or wrong.
I love that so many dichotomies came out of that discussion, which is really, when you think about it, what criticality is all about. It's like looking at the different perspectives that are present as you're unpacking any idea that you're thinking about. Awesome. Such good conversations, such good dialogue. I'm really thrilled. I was so pleased with what I was hearing. Everyone was engaged and really into it. I told y'all you were going to love this text, and I wasn't wrong, right? It's great. It's so good. So we're going to move into part 3, which is where she finally tells us how to do it, the lesson planning. I know, we've been waiting. So chapter 7 is selecting historically responsive texts. So this one's going to be pretty crucial as we move into module 6, which is our backward design. So you'll read the last 2 chapters of this text, selecting historically responsive text, and then chapter 8, I think, is like pulling it all together, the lesson plan. We're going to write slightly different style of lesson plans, but I'm going to ask that you hold those last two chapters in your mind as we move into our backward design, our lesson planning in the latter part of our class. So for next week, you're going to finish Cultivating Genius. You're going to write your last two reflections. Those are due by the 30th, 1 week from today. And that's your last reflection we'll do. And then by the time we're in this class again in 2 weeks' time, you will do module 6, which again is the beefy one. So give yourself some time with that one. Any questions? Last minute reflections, thoughts, ideas? I'm happy to chat if anybody wants to hang out. All right, thanks everyone. It was really nice to hear your thoughts on this book, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you. And you'll see me online. There's so many videos, all the videos. Thank you. Have a good week. Bye. Bye. Do something fun for yourself. It's fall. Go pick apples. Caramel pumpkin. Eat candy. That's my fun.
Kind of. I got my field placement today. And I had reached out to Colleen a couple weeks ago explaining the situation. I either.
Oh yeah, she told me she's changing your place.
Oh, thank
Don't
God.
worry, you can't go to Canandaigua.
No, I literally
Yeah.
can't.
Okay, she's like, it was $80 every time. she
Yeah,
goes.
it would have
No,
been a little much.
you're getting a new placement. It is coming. I
Okay.
know there's a few people who don't have placements yet.
I just had a lot of
Absolutely not.
anxiety. Couldn't hear that
I don't
today,
know.
so-
I just had dinner with her right before this class, and she was like, "Oh, I just remembered I gotta find Felicia another placement." Don't worry, she knows about it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, absolutely. Y'all are hanging out.
I just looked up and no one was here. I was just finishing writing it once.
Jen, next week is time for all you. Good night, you guys.
Bye. Thank you for being a discussion leader. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for participating. That was nerve-wracking.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh.
You have a PhD. It wasn't